Hollywood films are attracted to a hero who acts out of instinct, committing to a seemingly illogical leap of faith where the ends will ultimately justify the means. Moved by some spiritual impulse, they appear to possess a closeted religiousness. Director Chris Nolan inverts this idea in Interstellar, because of course he does, by making the central character a skeptic and attempting to explain away the mysticism of the narrative through science. The conflict is introduced early on when Cooper, our staunch rationalist and ex-NASA pilot,
and an engineer,
dismisses his daughter's claim that there is a ghost in her room.
No such thing as ghosts, babe.
Knocking books off the shelf and parting dust into piles on the ground, this poltergeist isn't like others, acting arbitrarily and making shit move to be spooky. This one has a message. Granted, this message changes from the word stay to the missing quantum data of the gravitation problem. But our hero of the third act is the little girl grown up, daughter Murphy Cooper, scientist and ghost whisperer. She embodies both the religious and the rational, reconciling the faith-driven attitude of Hollywood cinema with the scientific method, by eventually providing proof of her own spiritual experiences.
It's traditional.
The inclusion of these classically warring traditions is in the language of the film itself, and so it's unsurprising that there have been contradicting opinions about the true subject matter of Interstellar and its philosophical leaning. Christianity Today wrote about the film as absolutely religious, with Joseph Cooper, JC, taking the role of Christ, existing on a different spiritual plane, promising his return, and communicating from the other side through books. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Den of Geek, however, insists that it's a secular tale about self-determination in the face of final climatologist judgment, using up Earth's resources, leaving it barren, and moving on to the next thanks to human ingenuity. There are no aliens in Interstellar, nor an omnipotent being, just humanity looking out for the betterment of its fellow man. These interpretations are possible as Nolan has integrated them both, following the template of the faith-driven Hollywood hero, but trying to explain away the unknowable, the typically spiritual, with scientific explanation. Even Hans Zimmer's score imbues a certain religiosity, possessing a transcendent quality, powerfully minimal and emotionally affecting, played out by a large ensemble but featuring significantly as its central voice the organ of London's Temple Church. Interestingly, Zimmer had written the score thinking of his own son, who at the time was aiming to be a scientist himself, and states that the music is a celebration of science, but it obviously has this religious majesty inherent in its sound. In The Prestige, Nolan explored the spectacle of stage magic, explaining the mechanics of every illusion on screen except one, which is revealed to be real magic. Arthur C. Clarke, author of 2001: A Space Odyssey, has said, "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic." A sentiment expressed by the great Danton to an audience moments before being mysteriously transported. This isn't magic, it is science. This is the idea at play in both The Prestige and Interstellar. Magic, in this case, is the strange ghost activity that sparks the hero's journey, as well as the later revealed theory of unknown beings that are aiding humankind out of their desperate situation to a different galaxy. Cooper overlooks the significance of the ghost until it provides coordinates in dust piles on Murph's bedroom floor. At this point he begins to take note, moved by the vague explanation of
It's gravity.
To Cooper, this isn't some face of the Virgin Mary, it appears more definitive somehow as binary data. Much like the aberrant drone that comes down too low at the start of the film.
Why'd it come down so low?
I don't know. Maybe the sun cooked its brain or it was looking for something.
What?
A large flat blade. Or maybe some kind of signal? I don't know.
Cooper isn't simply looking for a sign. It needs to stand up to analysis or have some scientific grounding. This echoes a previous moment in which the combine harvesters on the farm go haywire, returning like animals coming inland before a storm. Rather than taken as some form of foreboding sign, it is also put down to a kind of scientific, one-word answer-all.
Magnetism, some such.
By strapping labels onto these invisible forces, it gives a sense of intention, that only slightly out of human understanding there is an explanation. This is what it takes for Cooper to believe, and it's even mockingly presented as a religious experience.
You want to clean that up? When you're finished praying to it?
As it happens, the dusty coordinates lead to the secret underground lair of what remains of NASA. The board of rationalists there waiting pick up on this flimsy explanation when probing the Coopers on how they found the place.
Look, it's kind of hard to explain. We learned these coordinates from an anomaly.
What sort of anomaly?
I hesitate to term it supernatural, but it definitely wasn't scientific.
Although this is brushed over, it forms a fundamental part of the film. Clearly there is a higher power at work, but these scientists know better than to put it down to a benevolent god or guardian angel.
But something sent you here. They chose you.
Well, who's they?
There is no answer yet. NASA will happily leave this unanswered and work on the next logical step, believing that they placed a wormhole near Jupiter, leading to another galaxy with a host of potentially inhabitable planets. Daughter Brand, who moments ago laughed at a 10-year-old for explaining the anomaly's gravity, now changes her tune.
Someone placed it there.
They?
And whoever they are, they appear to be looking out for us.
The Ganesh in the room comes through what is not said. They daren't speak of fate or destiny, but their words, cloaked in scientific jargon, feel religious. The way they describe the omniscience of these vaguely labelled entities sounds like someone describing their religious faith. Essentially, in this scene, they are convincing Cooper to leave his family and venture into the unknown based on their belief in invisible beings that are looking out for humanity. This is not the only time that charged terminology is used to invoke religious themes. Cooper has an old NASA textbook that has been cast out and is no longer taught in schools. Through the lens of conspiracy, it is cleverly turned into a matter of faith.
You don't believe we went to the moon?
Teaching pragmatism of looking after the planet against tales of leaving the planet. This makes NASA the object of faith as they are forced underground. And so there is still the divide of believer versus doubter, but science is on both sides, one of conservation and the other of exploration. On Brand's deathbed, where one might expect reassurances of the life hereafter, these scientists talk about their work, but with interesting turns of phrase.
You had faith. All those years. I asked you to have faith. I wanted you to believe.
It is not only faith that is grounded in scientific thought, but also love. Cooper offers the evolutionary function, but Daughter Brand points out the flaws of such narrow thinking and proposes a theory that runs deeper, offering up a more quasi-spiritual idea, but using scientific terminology.
Maybe it means something more, something we can't yet understand.
The undecipherable magic that is the guiding force of everyone's actions to save the human race could be interpreted as irrational initially, but only because it is not yet explained by the information afforded to the characters at this point. But of course, answers will come soon enough in a Nolan film. So late in the third act, it is revealed that they are actually humans.
Well, they didn't bring us here at all. We brought ourselves.
The ghost is Cooper.
How is your ghost?
Where religion is usually condemned for its arrogance in making human life the centre of the universe, Nolan goes further and makes humans the object of faith. He makes them gods. In this sweeping effort, Nolan fuses the mysticism of religion with the advancement of science and technology. He makes them the very same thing. I think Nolan applies science to the spiritual journey simply to ground the cinematic experience, to allow the ideas to resonate by presenting them within their own meticulously designed reality. Just as Inception dealt with dreams and Prestige dealt with magic, both in extreme methodical detail as though there is a concrete explanation and understanding. Even his superhero film about a vigilante dressed as a bat was gritty and realistic.
I'm Batman.
It seems that Nolan wants to give in to cinematic fantasy, but is compelled to explain the logic. Case in point in recent release Tenet, which was painstaking in its attempt to keep the audience informed of the rules of impossibly fantastical action sequences. What follows could be far-fetched, but it is an excuse to appeal to our innate desire for the story of a faithful hero, just in the case of Interstellar, using science to explain away the magic.
What happens now?
As with many Hollywood films that preceded, Interstellar reveals a hidden enemy in science.
But why?
Halfway through the film, the much respected and admired astronaut man is resurrected from the dead.
You have literally raised me from the dead.
Having led a group of 12, he is the figurehead of the Lazarus missions, the so-called best of us. Not a god, but merely man with a capital M, he reveals the scientific reasoning behind misleading the Coopers, offering evolutionary explanations with an emotionless detachment.
You never would have come here unless you believed you were going to save them. Evolution has yet to transcend that simple barrier. We can care deeply, selflessly, about those we know, but that empathy rarely extends beyond our line of sight.
Here, Cooper takes the role of the faithful against science. Never considered himself to be wrong before, nor does he now. Man is never removed from his ego. As he is revealed to be a liar, he acts coldly out of self-preservation, demonstrating the classic objective inhumanity of the mad scientist, writing off his cowardice as a fault of the species.
Human heaven.
Taken as a whole, you could interpret that Nolan is suggesting that we humans are our own gods and our own devils. That everything is explainable, no matter how fantastical. That there are no ghosts, just gravity.